Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Nimashi Fernando, the Seminar Secretary of the Sri Lanka Energy Managers Association. I'm glad to see so many enthusiastic participants joining our webinar today. And on behalf of the SLEMA, I warmly welcome you to our 71st Energy Management Forum titled NDC 3.0 2026-2035 Next Generation of Nationally Determined Contributions. This EMF will be conducted by Dr. Thusitha Sugathapala. Dr. Sugathapala is a senior lecturer in mechanical engineering of the University of Moratuwa and a chartered engineer. He obtained the BSc in engineering from the University of Moratuwa and PhD from the University of Cambridge. He has served as the Director General of the Sri Lanka Sustainable Energy Authority from 2011 to 2015 and has been involved with the development of policies and regulations related to sustainable energy, environmental management, climate action, and sustainable development. In particular, Dr. Sugathapala was involved with the development of NDC 3.0 as the team leader. Presently, he is serving as the chairman of the expert panel on Sri Lanka Green Finance Taxonomy and is also a resource person of the implementation of Sustainable Finance Roadmap 2.0 of the Central Bank of Sri Lanka and a member of the National Expert Committee on Climate Change Mitigation and also a member of the Expert Committee for the preparation of carbon trading strategy for Sri Lanka. So without further ado, I cordially invite Dr. Sugathapala to conduct his presentation. And audience, if you do have any questions, please drop them into the Q&A chat box. And we would also provide you the opportunity to use the raise hand option during the Q&A session, depending on the availability of time. Dr. Sugathapala, the floor is on you, sir.
Thank you, Nimashi. Good evening, everybody. I would like to thank SLEMA for inviting me to do this session, kind of a new topic. Of course, NDC is not a new thing, but this NDC 3.0 is a new government plan which was submitted to the global community. That's what I call the new CCC very recently, last week of September. So it's a very recent development plan we have submitted. So therefore, though NDC is kind of not a new thing for all of you, this one may have some new information globally, locally as well as globally. So I will try to cover these and also highlight the importance of this, the NDC, so-called NDC, which is of course related to climate action, but of course go beyond that. That's kind of a message I want to give, and also the role of power sector, electric sector on the whole, this NDC. So that globally as well as locally, more emphasis has been given to energy sector and especially the power sector. So that is very, very relevant to this group, SLEMA members. So that's why this become important in that, the context. So I will basically cover my presentation under these topics. I will very briefly talk about this climate change frameworks, which of course now lead to the well-known Paris Agreement on climate change. That's where the NDCs comes. So NDC, this is the third version of NDCs globally as well as locally we submitted, which provide much more comprehensive information, the framework. That's why it's called next generation. So I will go into detail on that to have a better understanding of this third version of NDCs, the newest one, that usually cover 10-year period from January 1st of next year, 2026 to 31st December of 2035. So it's a 10-year period. I remember that presently we are under NDC 2.0, what we call updated NDCs. That was covering the period from 2021 to 2030. So therefore, even today, it's not NDC 3.0, it's NDC 2.0, which is in effect. So therefore, for the next 5 years, there's a kind of overlap between NDC 2.0 and the 3.0. But from next January, what we have to refer basically the NDC 3.0. The actions will start from the January 1st of next year. So therefore, we are now about to develop this action plan, which is not there. So what we have is NDCs, the updated one, the third version, NDC 3.0. The implementation plan has not been developed yet. That will come very soon. So I will go into the key elements of this NDC 3.0, especially looking at the key highlights that indicate different sectors, what are the key actions we have proposed uh, uh, as a government, a national government, or the member state of UNFCCC and UN member country. Then I will have some closing remarks that will capture the global and local situations, the present today 2025 situation, and also the way forward. So that's the closing remark part. So we'll start with the climate change frameworks. You are aware that this climate change is one of the key challenges for sustainable development as highlighted in SDG 13. So out of 17 sustainable development goals, one of the goal, SDG 13 for climate action. But of course, it has implication in other SDGs. So therefore, it's perceived that the most important, I would say, SDGs, SDG 13 climate action, because if we can properly handle that climate action properly done, then we can address sustainable development. If we don't do that, then there will be negative impact on sustainable development that our target for SDGs may not be a reality. So that is a very important, globally, it's perceived as the most important, actions we had to take, or the issue. So in that response, many initiatives have been, happened for that so many decades. Some are related to international agencies, for example, UNFCCC, which is the political kind of a policy-making body in climate action, was initiated. Then many UN agencies, especially the development agencies like UNDP, FAO, even WHO, all will have implication of climate change or climate action. And also we have IPCC, Intergovernmental Panel for Climate Change, that's the world's largest scientific body, and so on. So there are many agencies, institutions, and conventions which are developed directly or indirectly to address climate change issues. So when you look at the climate change frameworks, starting from UNFCCC, there are derivation. You can find over the years the approach for climate change or approach to solve the climate change has been evolving, and presently through the Paris Agreement, we have what you call post 2020, where the framework is basically, the modality is basically framed by NDCs, National Determined Contribution, which is applicable for all the countries, developed, what you call Annex 1 countries and non-Annex 1 countries, that the European countries alike, this is applicable. It's also should be aligned with what you call long-term low emission development strategy. This is called LTLEDs. So that is also an important part that NDC should be linked or integrated to the national development plan. That's what you call long term, like 2050 or beyond, low emission related to climate change mitigation aspect. Development strategy is basically SDGs. So therefore, our NDCs are really should be linked to SDGs also. It's nothing new. It's a part of our development plan. So that's the way we have to pursue NDCs. Therefore, NDC is not just climate issue. So it's go beyond that. It's the development, socio-economic development. But whatever this framework was developed through Paris Agreement. Now, Paris Agreement came in 2015, 2016, in fact, there, but the implementation of Paris Agreement, that the NDC is for 10-year period, it started from 2020. That's why post 2020. So we had NDC develop what you call NDC 2.0 came into 2021, covering 2021 to 2030 10-year period. Now we are going to the next 10-year period after 5 years of progress. So that's the basic framework. I will provide some key elements of Paris Agreement before going into our topic on NDC 3.0. So Paris Agreement on climate change, basically international framework which was primarily established for two elements. One thing is to stabilize the global temperature rise or the climate at a safer level. That's one of the key things. That's basically linked to the greenhouse gas emission and global warming. The safer level indicate basically through IPCC modeling, scientific information that we have to limit or keep our global temperature rise compared with the pre-industrialized level below 1.5 degrees centigrade to minimize, to have minimum impact. But if we are failing that, we have to limit, keep the temperature below 2 degrees at least to minimize, the impact so that we can survive as human. We can survive in the changing climate. So that is called temperature goal of Paris Agreement. That's on one of the aspects. That's to limit the temperature rise so that our climate change impact are at a safer level. There's another element which is not usually highlighted, but very important for Sri Lanka, like developing countries. That's what we call global goal on adaptation. So we have like temperature increase limit, but we are now, it's obvious that we are having climate change impacts now. Although we can limit the temperature rise, still we are going to have climate change impact even at 1.5 degrees or 2 degrees. What we are facing now, like the rains we are having now, these are unexpected one. These are part of climate change, and these are becoming more intensified with the global temperature rise. We are aware that now we have reached 1.1 globally, the average 1.1 degree level. So somehow we have to limit to 1.5 or 2. I think 1.5 is not possible now. Mean that even we stop all the carbon emission today, even the temperature, with that temperature will rise above 1.5 because of the past emission, carbon emission we had globally. So 2 would be the realistic target, but that also not easy. I will explain later on with the progress. So then, since we are having climate change impacts, we have to adapt to that. So we have to live with the climate change. That's what we call adaptation. And also we have to build resilience for climate change. So therefore, global goal on adaptation is meaning that. So we have to, these type of guidelines are given. And usually adaptation elements are very qualitative, very difficult to measure, very difficult to quantify and so on. So therefore, so far, more emphasis are given for climate change mitigation, but not so for adaptation, though adaptation element is more important for Sri Lanka because we are not a high emitting country. So in that context, global goal on adaptation is also very, very important. And in line with that, Sri Lanka have some initiatives. I will discuss that also. Of course, the part of NDCs, adaptation sectors are there. In addition, very recently, few weeks back, the global community, UNFCCC, came up with specific indicators for adaptation. It has been a challenge over so many years to come up with universally agreeable indicators for adaptation. There were, like last year, there were 1,000 plus indicators in the negotiation conference of parties meeting. Everyone get together and try to come up with common indicators, but it was not a success. But very recently, like a couple of weeks back, now they have come up with 100 indicators in adaptation. So we can, which is yet to localize, but we are aligned with that. So therefore there are some positive development in that context. So adaptation also become very important element. And basically, both what you call climate action, mitigation, and adaptation together are finally linked into SDGs, as I discussed earlier. This is not just looking at the climate; it's basically looking at the socio-economic development, targeting sustainable development goals. So therefore, climate actions, mitigation, adaptation are strongly linked to SDGs. So therefore, it's very important to perceive climate action as not just environmental intervention, but it's for pathway for sustainable development. When you look at the modalities of climate action, there are many. UNFCCC leading this one, and one of the most deliberated one through Paris Agreement is National Determined Contribution, NDCs. Then we have what we call National Adaptation Plan, which is aligned with the global goal on adaptation. Sri Lanka, our second version of National Adaptation Plan, being just finalized, like almost final ratification level is validated also, stake of validation. It's in National Adaptation Plan, second version. It will cover same year, the time duration, 2026 to 2035, NDC time duration, same. It's a 10-year plan for adaptation. Now, we also have subnational level adaptation plan. It's called Provincial Adaptation Plan, PAPS. Very few countries globally have subnational level adaptation plan, but Sri Lanka is one of the leading country, first country who came up with this one. So we have also now developed, about to finalize the Provincial Adaptation Plan, first time. National Adaptation Plan the second time, but Provincial Adaptation Plan the first time. For 9 provinces, now we have Provincial Adaptation Plan, as well as we have a governance structure. All the provinces, that's what we call climate change unit, and also climate change board, which are basically handling this provincial adaptation plan, also climate action at provincial level. So that's a very positive point in terms of Sri Lanka compared to other countries going, aligning climate actions in the subnational level too. Then we have another one which called Technology Need Assessment Technology Action Plan, which are linked to climate action or climate technologies. Now this came up even before NDCs. This came up in year 2000. In that level, again through UNFCCC, it was realized that without technology, the propagation, you can't realize climate action, both mitigation and adaptation. Any action need technology, and we need innovation in technology, new technology development. So therefore, this particular intervention, is to identify technologies that are required for developing countries like us to implement our actions in climate action, for which the international supports, finance, technical expertise, information, capacity building, all can be accessed if we identify the technologies. So Sri Lanka, again, now we have second version of Technology Need Assessment Technology Action Plan about to finalize, again covering that 10-year period, next year 2026 to 2035, which are basically the key technologies required to implement NDCs. This particular case, all the NDC sectors, there are at least 3 technologies selected, prioritized, and detailed action plan have been now finalized. And once we have that type of in action plan, we can submit these technologies, this action plan for international financial or other support. So therefore, these 3 NDCs, NAP or PAPS, as well as TNA, TAP are interlinked. So which are aligned. So the present versions are now covering for the next 10 years, 2026 to 2035. In addition, within Paris Agreement, also one of the key gap in progression towards this climate action and SDGs are the finance. So therefore, there's a higher emphasis given within Paris Agreement to raise climate finance to implement, in particular, NDCs and also National Adaptation Plan, and also technology, technologies identified under TNA, TAP. That also linked to what we call carbon market mechanism, which Sri Lanka has not fully embraced yet. Though we have CDM projects, some of the projects like hydro we had earlier, but these CDM projects are not the mechanism are not there now. The mechanism come up with Paris Agreement, a particular section called Article 6. So Article 6 of the Paris Agreement provide framework for countries to explore and mobilize carbon market mechanism to attract funding for climate and other development activities. So climate financing is a general one. And within the climate financing, we also have one route, one mechanism called carbon market mechanism, where we trade our carbon with developed countries, where our that carbon will be traded. We are getting finance for our development. So that's there. So therefore, climate financing, including carbon market mechanism, also become very important, which are also the guidance are provided by the Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement become very important element there. So now our topic is basically NDCs. So therefore, I will now go into NDCs, particular the historical development, as well as NDC 3.0. That's the present version. So we look at the basic of NDCs is basically the heart of Paris Agreement. The Paris Agreement is implemented through NDC. So basic of NDC is basically it's a cyclic process, 5-year cycle. Every 5 years, we have to come up with new actions, particularly NDCs, covering 10-year period. So 2021 or 2020, we came up with NDC 2.0, basically, the second one. First one came as in 2016, NDC 1.0. It was not for 2015 to 2030, 25 for, again for 2020 to 2030, but developed in 2016. Then it was upgraded to cover the same period in 2020 or 2021. So we submitted in 2021. Some of the countries on time, they submitted in 2020 to cover 2021 to 2030 period. So therefore, NDC 1.0 and 2.0 are in a way the same period, but it's a second version. So therefore, NDC 2.0 were built on NDC 1.0, which was submitted in 2016 in our case. So there presently we have this 10-year period covering 2035, 2035, NDC 3.0. So each version, we have a third version, are like second version is more ambition than first version. Then third version is more ambition than second version. Likewise, over the upcoming years, every 5 years, there will be further improvement. And finally, aim is to reach this temperature goal, and also global goal in adaptation, and also sustainable development through this stage-wise process. So final aim is sustainable development with climate stabilized climate the environment. So that's the basic concept, and the basis there basically nationally determined means all the countries individually contribute. They agree to contribute as member countries with the capacity they have. So that is not a the globally, of course, there are certain guidelines, but everyone was requested to come up with the most ambitious targets by own, rather than pushing by international law. So this therefore determination of NDCs are national thing, like we can determine, but when we communicate that action, then it becomes mandatory to report. So therefore, there's a mandatory element in the NDCs not to come up with NDC number, the targets, but to report that. But when we come up with some target, so the report is mandatory, but the targets are it's a voluntary, nationally determined, thing. So individual, countries will decide on that. Then we have to look at the progression each cycle. And also we have feedback mechanism that every 2 years there's a global stock take where the progress is measured, and thereby for the next cycle of NDCs we have to refer the global stock take findings to improve so that we can reach our goals. both mitigation adaptation, the temperature goal and adaptation goal both. Then also we have enhanced transparency framework. It was identified that earlier, though different countries declare certain, the targets or the actions, their implementation as well as their reporting is not clear. It's not very, the quality of the data submitted, and there are a lot of gaps. So therefore, the transparency become an issue. Therefore, in NDC 3.0, that's one of the major improvement or the change compared to the other versions, that we have to follow a certain, transparency framework, in particular data, their quality and so on, in our communication. You can't just, report something which is not implementable. So we have to look at the local context and then only declare the actions which are implementable. Of course, to implement, we need additional technologies, technology transfer. It can be, it should be, supported by finance. So there are a lot of gaps are there. But if we get this assistance, then we can implement. It's implementable, subjected to having these additional resources. So that's a requirement. So this time, these checklist or the scrutinized, criteria, criteria have been used to develop NDC actions in this third version, 3.0. So therefore, this time NDCs are more comprehensive and also more kind of sound with a basis. So as I said, the process is well defined in NDCs. The Paris Agreement is a 5-year cycle process. So 2020, these submissions are usually discussed, analyzed with global stock take. 2023, we had the first global stock take. Now it's available. It's global stock take 1. Second global stock take, 2026, 8 to be submitted. But now already the actions have been initiated to, monitor and get this data. So every 5 years, we have global stock take. So next one, 2028, then 2033, and so on. Then NDC submission. So now 2025, we have just submitted our 3.0. Then the 4.0 will come in 2030. Then 2035, there will be another one. So every 5 years, the new NDCs. Presently, 2025 means our the first third submission, NDC 3.0. Every year, the UNEP prepare NDC synthesis report to monitor the progress and then report the situation. So we usually refer this report to understand what's happened. It's a yearly process done by UNEP global community. Then we have NDC implementation plan. Basically, although we have NDCs for 10-year period, we develop the NDC implementation for 10-year period. Every 5 years, we get new NDC. So therefore, it's detailed NDC implementation plan effectively applicable for 5 years. So therefore, now this year we are covering 2026 to 2030. So that's the 5-year period. So then we have what you call NDC tracking, which is done by biannual transparency reports. Once in every 2 years, the government like Sri Lanka should submitted what you call BTR, biannual transparency reports, indicating our progress in climate action and also our GHG inventory. That has to be reported. So now we have submitted our first BTR last 31st December 2024, the last date of the deadline. So we submitted. So BTR1 is now available. The BTR2 should be submitted in end of 2026 next year. But now it takes a lot of time to identify the GHG emission, the inventory, and so on. So therefore, Sri Lankan government, the Ministry of Environment, Commission Secretariat, they have now initiated the BTR2 activity. I think very recently they have recruited a team to do that. So therefore, BTR2 development is being initiated. We could take long period, but that submission is due in next year, December. So therefore, there are many elements which are linked to NDCs in the process, NDC submission process. In historically, as I discussed, NDC 1.0, it came in 2015-16 period. 2.0 is those days we call updated NDCs came in 2021. Now it's called NDC 2.0. Then this year we submitted in September, I think 26th of September. Sri Lanka submitted to UNFCCC our NDC, the third NDC, NDC 3.0, that's what we call next generation NDCs, covering 2020 to 2035, that 10-year period. This was approved by the cabinet, I think, on 22nd of September. Then report was submitted in 2026. You can download this report from UNFCCC website under country page, NDC 3.0 submission. You can download our report. So my next slides basically cover the information on this report. All these information I extracted are basically from the NDC 3.0 Sri Lanka NDC 3.0 report. So you can get more information there. It is now you can download. So basically what you see there is every 3 stages we can see more ambition and enhancement. Usually we use the ambition for more ambition means related to mitigation sectors, carbon reduction. More enhancement term we usually use for adaptation. So more enhanced adaptation action, more ambition in mitigation action. It's not a hard and fast rule, but that's the way we interpret this one. So enhancement and ambition are both there in our NDC 3.0, both adaptation and mitigation areas. So that's where the process. So we'll talk now of the NDC 3.0. Now, not like earlier versions. So this time when we prepare the NDC 3.0 with the learning from NDC 1.0 and 2.0, UNFCCC and other related agencies came up with more sound or more comprehensive, more guided framework for the countries to develop these NDC 3.0 aligned with the global framework. So therefore, there are a lot of guidance from many agencies, support, even technical support given by development partners and other UN agencies for all the countries. For example, for Sri Lanka, it was usually, or rather, it was this time supported by what we call NDC partnership, kind of a global entity who are supporting developing countries to prepare sound NDCs. NDC partnership, they have contacted most of the global UN agencies, development partners to support the development of Sri Lanka NDCs. Where several agencies like ADB, UNIDO, FAO, UNDP, UNICEF, WHO, all supported in different areas. So there is a collective support from the global community to develop NDC 3.0 for Sri Lanka. Now, one of the key guiding principles is what you call this common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capacities. So CBDR RC is a kind of a principle developed in Paris Agreement. So every country, based on their capabilities, their situation, should come up with action. So it's a common action, but within countries there are differentiated responsibilities. Developed countries and developing countries, we have different responsibilities, and also we have different capacities. So therefore, basically, we have to align NDCs in the broader development goals in the country, national priorities and their planning processes, and also specific circumstances. So that's the way the NDCs were fine-tuned or refined in all the countries, including Sri Lanka. So we had to align with the national and sectoral policies, planning processes, and also we had to leverage on other processes like National Adaptation Plan, Provincial Adaptation Plan, Technology Need Assessment, Technology Action Plan, which I highlighted earlier. Another area is, in fact, there are other global agendas, and we have to align with that. I have already indicated the SDG one. That's very fundamental. But in addition, we have other commitments which are also linked into climate action. So therefore, NDCs are also should be aligned with Convention on Biodiversity (CBD), National UN Convention on Combat Desertification (UNCCD), Sendai Framework for Disaster Risk Reduction (SFDRR). In particular, we have what we call one NDC sector as loss and damage. So that's relevant to this one. And of course, in the other adaptation sectors in particular, it's relevant to this disaster risk reduction, is adaptation element. Therefore, our NDCs should be aligned or harmonized with these SDGs and other one. And we have also looked into that one, especially SDGs, but other areas, not a very detailed assessment, but some indicators have been referred when you are developing targets in national determined contribution. For example, in conventional biodiversity, probably you are aware that Sri Lanka now come up with what they call national biodiversity targets, NBT. These are now published. So some of these are very relevant to climate action. So therefore, during the initial stage of NDC 3.0 development, this was not finalized, but these draft versions have been referred in refined in the NDCs. But now these national biodiversity targets are available, so you can refer that. Then also this time the cost sectoral implication and have been looked into. For example, when you have action in energy sector, that will have implication in transport and many other sectors, for transport, waste, or industry, and even agriculture. So therefore, cost sectoral implications is important. And also this time mitigation co-benefit of adaptation. So far, even in NDC 3.0, we estimated the carbon reduction only the sectoral, what do you call, the mitigation sectors contribution. But when you look into the adaptation action in certain sectors, that will have a mitigation co-benefit, which have not been quantified. So therefore, that is a new requirement in NDC 3.0. We have to identify mitigation co-benefit of adaptation action and then quantify that. In Sri Lanka, we have identified this mitigation co-benefit. Some, of course, they are in the mitigation sectors, it's already quantified, but some of the actions are not identified within the mitigation sectors. Therefore, those carbon reduction could have been part of our targets. However, this time, although we identify the linkage, we have not quantified. So therefore, next time, because of time limitation, we can do that. But next time, we need to quantify those mitigation co-benefits arising from adaptation action in adaptation sectors. Then in NDCs, one of the key, the most important element in NDC communication is what you call information to facilitate clarity, transparency, and understanding. Call it two. There's a table, standard table, which all the countries follow the table. There are 30 plus field for us to present the way we have identified, developed, even with the way we consulted the stakeholders and so on, and final target. Everything we have to clearly indicate within the table, very briefly. So that is the most important part of NDC 3.0 in our report. That's at the last pages as an annex, covering 30 plus, I think 37 indicators. So that when you go through that one, we can identify the key to understand all the important elements in our NDC 3.0. In fact, some countries submitted their NDC 3.0 report as only ICTU table, nothing else, only the table. Because table carries the most important elements there. When you go through the ICTU table, you will understand the key aspects of the NDC 3.0. So in our case, we have the other chapters, of course, but including this one. Then global stock take, we had to look into that one. We have done that one. Then consideration of finance, technology, and capacity readiness. When we have certain action which where the technology or capacity or finance are not there yet, we have not prioritized. So therefore, the readiness in all these areas is a kind of a checklist. Then accounting approaches were given. We had to follow that. Enhanced indicator framework. So we have come up with more what you call KPIs, which are smart KPI level, like that. So enhanced indicator framework. Then there are some guidance given by what you call modalities, procedures, and guidelines, MPG, for enhanced transparency framework. And this time also, what you call the social inclusion, the gender equity and social inclusion has been integrated together with youth and children empowerment. That's where the support we got from UNICEF to look into that. So that also additionality in new NDC 3.0. Methodology and process, because of time need, we have used a kind of a first stage rapid assessment, then second stage the more detailed refinement consolidation, where there are many KPI criteria we have taken in line with the guidance provided by UNECCC. So therefore, we have looked into the available information like NDC 2.0, their progress, BTR1, binary transfer report, techno need assessment, technology action plan, national adaptation plan, carbon net zero roadmap, new policies and measures, action plan, and so on. So we have referred that time to come up with a quick NDC list. Then in phase 1, the phase 2, stage 2, we have gone into detail assessment to come up with the final validated NDC. So that's the process we have followed. Because we had very limited time this year to develop because of the time limit provided, So that is a quick job, but we have followed this comprehensive methodology. So we have some key attributes which are important to understand. Our reference period, as I said, is 10-year period, 2026 to 2035. Our targets are single year emission target. Single year means that we have a target for cumulative GHG emission reduction for the 10-year period. The target is for is applicable at the end December 31st, 2020, 2035. It's a single year means the end year is 2035. We give a not year by target. It's a, of course, in the progress we look into the year by thing, but final, our commitment is the final target. It's a single year emission target, end of 2035. It's a cumulative emission for 10-year period. So therefore, when we refer this ton of carbon, this represents 10-year duration, not a single year. Then this 10-year reduction was calculated against what you call business baseline GHG emission, business as usual scenario. That baseline was drawn not from this year, but from the start of our climate action, 2010. So therefore, our base is called historical base is 2010. So we have a line starting from 2010, going up to 2035 N. Against that line, how much we are going to reduce for the 10-year period, 2026 January to 2035 December is our target. So therefore, we have this baseline as a single line originating from the historical base year 2010. GHG covered, conventionally we have covered CO2, methane, N2O, nitrous oxide, but this time with the industrial sector, this refrigerant, the new initiative, low carbon refrigerant, now we have HFCs also as gas. So it's an additionality in Sri Lanka this year. So it's HFCs appear first time in our NDCs. And then, of course, conventionally, we have been following IPCC guideline 2006 is the best one, in 2019 refinement, and there are a few other sector-specific guidance provided later on. This also, when necessary, we referred, for example, for forestry sector and sometimes for this HFCs, there are certain other guidelines apart from the one I have listed here. But basically, these are guided by IPCC guidelines. Sector coverage, as we are aware, we have 16 sectors, same as last 2 times. Mitigation, 6 sectors, adaptation, 9 sectors, and we have sector, cross-cutting loss and damage, L&D. So power sector means electricity. Is covered in the number one, and which is the most important sector in terms of the contribution to our climate action. Then, of course, transport, industry, waste, forestry, and agriculture. The agriculture in mitigation include both livestock and agriculture, but when you go for adaptation, agriculture and livestock are considered 2 sectors. So in total, in NDC 3.0, we have 89 NDC actions, 35 mitigation actors under these 5 sectors, or 6 sectors, 49 adaptation actions, and 5 loss and damage actions. These actions are more strategic level, broader level, and we have not gone into the activity plan within NDC 3.0 report, but we had to develop certain actions, series of actions, action plans in NDC implementation plan, which is yet to be started. So in coming months, NDC implementation plan will give more details, but here we have 89 actions which can be elaborated more in implementation plan. Presently, these are the actions. Remember that mitigation action, we also have sequestration. Forestry basically is net removal. We also consider forestry, emission, but also removal. So we have net removal. So therefore, in the forestry sector, mitigation sector refers some of the action are removals than emission, net removal. I'll show the final result here basically. As I said, this black line starting from 2010 refers to what we call business as usual scenario, meaning that without having any implementation of mitigation or adaptation or mitigation action, the carbon emission will be in that line, baseline. Then red line refers to the what we call the mitigation scenario of unconditional, mean that our own initiative, our own finance, our technologies, our capacity, we implement that. Then the green line represent from red to green, what we call conditional, where is that we can implement this one with international support. So together from black line to the green line represent the total emission reduction. That's the NDC target, which is given as in quantity wise 116,000 plus gigagrams CO2 equivalent, which is equivalent to 20% reduction of greenhouse gas emission for the this 10-year period. It starts from 2026 to end up in 2035. That period, the cumulative reduction is what is given there. Similarly, we have increase in removal. So reduction in emission, increase in removal, that is equivalent to 8,500 gigagrams or 4.5% increase in net GHG removal in the forestry sector. So that the black line refers to the 5 sectors, not forestry. Forestry sectors is given by this dash line. So it's a separated. The carbon reduction and removal are reported separate. So those are the targets. The details are given here. I'm not going to, because the time limit, I'm not going to go into detail, but just to highlight here, NDC 3.0, the total reductions in each of these 6 sectors are given here. The 5 sectors, we have 116,000. That's what I indicated earlier, cumulative value. Then forestry removal is 8,500. And in terms of percentage reduction in each of the sectors separately, the highest is in power sector. Power sector will have 33.8 reduction with respect to business as usual case. Other sectors are given here. In total, collectively, for these 5 sectors is 20.1 reduction. Forest is a removal one, net removal, which will have 4.5% increase in the removal. So therefore, both are contributing to the climate action. I also highlighted here the NDC 2.0, which was for 2021 to 2030. You can compare the values and we can see that all the sectors will have a certain increase, like 49,000 to 87,000, 5,000 to 7,000 and so on. In total, 65,000 to 116,000 increase. And also there's increase in removal. So therefore, NDC 3.0 is more ambition and more enhanced compared with NDC 2.0. So these are the overall result. And now we look at this contribution, we can see out of this 116,000, 87,000 coming from the power sector. It's the electricity sector. 75% contribution in our emission reduction coming from the power sector, electricity sector. Therefore, our NDCs, like in other countries also, more emphasis, significantly high emphasis are given for energy sector. So therefore, you are part of that sector. It's very important to understand the climate action are primarily based on energy sector. So that's an important, message here. And some of the key highlights I just listed by taking certain elements. They are not all. So we have 89 targets. No? So out of that, in electricity sector, we have 70% renewable energy electricity generation by 2030 and beyond. And total megawatt addition for 10-year period will be 5,231 megawatt. Grid indicated energy storage 1,350. Out of that, 600 coming from pump hydro, 750 coming from battery storage. Grid level. No capacity addition of coal while enhancing or introducing natural gas for the grid instability to absorb more renewable energy. Electricity demand reduction about 30,000 gigawatt hours is like equivalent around, I think, 15 to 20%. Increase in share of public transport in the transport sector from 35% today to 50% by 2035. Fuel economy of active fleet reduction by 15% with respect to 2025 by improving the fuel, especially to wet program, the condition of vehicle and so on, to improve the fuel economy, emission, what you call fuel efficiency. Circular economy concept basically is for industry, force hours loss reduction, improve value addition in crops, that is in agriculture, promotion of RE, renewable energy in agriculture and livestock, like water pumping, dryers, and so on. Forest cover increase up to 32% at least, which also include what you call TROF. TROF means tree TR outside the forest, TROF. So that the target also include, for example, catchment area, tree plantation, roadside tree plantation, then the home gardens, all are basically captured their tree plantation. Another emphasis is given for blue carbon ecosystem like mangroves, sea grass, and so on. So conservation and enhancement of mangroves is one of the action, and also promotion of nature-based solution (NBS) also there. That's coming under some sectors like biodiversity. These are adaptation sectors. So these are some of the list, some of the key targets, but we have such 89 targets basically. Yeah. Then all the sectors, now we have reached almost 1 hour now. So I will quickly go through it. Illicit sector, there are 5 targets, NDCs, where this 33% reduction is given there. Already I highlighted this. Then also include R&D activities and other necessary studies on clean energy. Overall outputs, it was given in the earlier table, but just compared with the NDC 2.0 in the footnote, we can see NDC 2.0. The 3.0 values are in the table. 87,000, 33.9% reduction, unconditional 13, 20.9% conditional. Basically the chart, same like earlier one. Here, please note that for the electricity sector, the base year was taken as 2013. All the other sectors 2010, but electricity sector, because of the those days we have referred the baseline business as usual case as based on the long-term generation expansion plan available, at that time. So therefore, this line starts from 2013. So therefore, but this earlier line does not have a implication on the 10-year period because that start in 2016. This is only a trend line. So what we calculate is the area within the 10-year period. So here we can see a significant reduction is expected in electricity sector. Similarly, transport sector, there are many actions. I will not read through it. There the target is around 4.8% reduction, not high as electricity sector because there are difficulties there. Similarly, industry sector, we have several like eco-labeling, sustainable consumption production, circular economy, life cycle assessment, resource efficient cleaner production, energy efficiency. This time, industry sector, the industrial, end-use industry energy efficiency improvement were reported under industry sector, not energy sector. So therefore, energy efficiency improvement, the end-use aspect in industry sector are included in that sector. So last time it was under energy, electricity sector. Then we have these eco-industrial parks and so on. So output, the reduction, percentage is 13%, 7.2 unconditional, 5.8 conditional. Again, is compared to the NDC 2.0, it's an enhancement. Waste sector, again, we have this waste management hierarchy concept applied here. Reduction or other avoidance from reduction, 3R, and going down to waste to energy. All are there. And wastewater treatment is also there. So it's also significant reduction is expected, 20.8 reduction with the business as usual case, which is again higher than last time. Agriculture sector, this is the mitigation area. So where the first 3 is for the agriculture, second 3, 4 to 6 is for the livestock. So altogether 6 from agriculture and livestock. Their reduction target is 10.4% reduction. The value is 8,600, which is much higher than the last time. Forest sector is basically net removal. So forest management, restoration, tree outside the forest, catchment protection, through tree planting, mangroves, and so on. So there are 4 NDCs, 4.5 increase here in carbon net removal, because in some of the forest land there are emission also. This is a net removal. So I'll come to the final part of the discussion. The concluding remarks, just to show the issues basically. When you look at the NDCs, now we are developing NDCs based on Paris Agreement. In terms of the carbon emission, GHG mitigation or emission, the target is basically what you call this Paris Agreement temperature goal, which ideally, if we can limit to 1.5 degrees centigrade with limited overshoot, then we are much safer in relation to climate impacts. But if we are failing to that one, 2 degrees, if you can maintain below 2 degrees, that's also okay. But definitely we are going to have more impact if we go for 2 degrees. But still, as a society, we can survive according to the IPCC, this modeling. If our temperature rise go beyond 2 degrees, then as a society globally, we're going to have very much negative impacts, due to climate change, hazardous and so on. So therefore, the target is to limit to 2 degrees maximum. So those pathways in terms of carbon emissions are given in these areas. There are multiple scenarios. It's not a single line. There are many lines. These are linked to what you call SSP, Shared Socio-Economic Pathways. So these pathways are linked to the economic development pathways. So it's not just carbon reduction, but carbon reduction associated with different, for example, green economy or green development pathways. So these are linked to, of course, carbon emission and also temperature rise. So therefore, these are basically development pathways. We can take different development pathways. The upper one shows the 2015 when we come up with the NDCs, INDCs, Internet and National Determined Contribution, and NDC 1.0. That's the pathway defined there, which is much above the 2 degrees, 1.5 degrees. NDC 2.0, which came in, up to 2030, which shows in the red one. If you go all on that, you can see the variation here. We are not going to read this 2.0. So therefore, it's expected that our NDC 3.0 globally will have more enhanced ambition targets to reach this 2.0 degree scenario. Presently, what we are implementing is NDC 2.0, even today, this year, which are going align with this scenario. So if we are going to miss this 2 degree, probably by 2060, we are going to reach this 1.5 or 2 degree, 1.5, then 2100, 2 degrees. So that's an issue. So therefore, present NDC 2.0 is not aggressive enough. Now we have to check with the NDC 3.0, which is not fully submitted by all the member countries. When we submitted in September 26, I think we are 38 countries who submitted that. Now, presently, I think we have globally few more. We have 198 countries now. So therefore, all the countries have not submitted NDC 3.0. So therefore, still UNFCCC could not, or IPCC, they could not estimate what the real impact. So therefore, it's yet to come. I think end of this year, more countries will submit. Based on that, we can see how far NDC 3.0 is more closer to NDC, these lines. But the way it's coming up, definitely we are not going to reach for 2 degree at least scenario level. So therefore, we will we miss globally. We are not going to achieve this 2 degree target with NDC 3.0. So therefore, I think in 2030, there will be more aggressive requirement to accelerate this transition. So therefore, we are not in a good position so far. So the inadequate commitment from all the countries. When you look at key indicators towards our target by Paris Agreement, the mitigation and adaptation target together. Now here, World Resource Institute, they come up with 45 indicators shown in this the square box. And evaluate very recently, in fact, last month, in September, what the progress. And it is shown by this color. The progress on track is green, off track, yellow, and so on. And sufficient, strong, wrong direction, going negative direction is red. Then insufficient data to estimate is ash color. You can see we don't have any box which are on track. So therefore, all the indicators are presently off track with respect to our 2030 target. 2030 target coming from Paris Agreement. So the Paris Agreement target, any of the area, we don't find a single sector or the indicator or action which are on track. So therefore, we are, fully off track in general. So I'll just pick up, because all these box will have more detail, meaning, which are, we can have given the source, we can go, there is an online source, we can explore all of these boxes. I will just show you a few. For example, this on track, there's none. Off track, we have share of EVs in light duty vehicles is off track. We had a target, we mean so globally, to reach this Paris Agreement targets, but we are not moving towards that, off track. Global private climate finance, off track. Like there are several others. Then I have picked these four for the well off track. Energy intensity in building operation, well off track. Share of coal in electricity generation, well off track. Green hydrogen production, well off track. Global total climate finance. Earlier, I think the private climate finance is slightly better, but total climate finance, including the public, finance, is well off track. So we can see many areas are what you call well off track, far away from what we need. We look at the wrong direction, which are going in the negative direction. One thing is carbon intensity of global steel production is a heavy industry, one of the most polluting high carbon industry. Their carbon intensity is increasing. It's off track. Or not off track, wrong direction. So going in the completely wrong direction. Share of kilometer traveled by passenger cars. In the earlier targets towards 2030, the public transport has been promoted. With that, we can limit carbon emission. But this indicates that we are globally, the more passenger cars or the individual cars or modes are coming up. So therefore, it's wrong direction. Similarly, there are areas where we don't have data, and also it's definitely off track. Food waste, we can't quantify, there's no information. Retrofitting rate of buildings, also no sufficient data to quantify. So therefore, there are areas, indicators, where you can't estimate the situation is the lack of data. In total also, all these areas, one of the key gaps is the lack of data to quantify. So therefore, in total, the message is we are not going to reach our Paris Agreement targets. We are going to miss it. So that's the message. Some of the key indicators. Now this shows how the base year is Paris Agreement 2015. From there onward, how far we have gained. So this is the share of solar and wind. It's a significant improvement, 3 times from Paris Agreement to date, more than 3 times. That's very good, but still, when you look at the target they set, we are going to miss it by 2030. So therefore, it's not really going as the fast as required by the Paris Agreement. Now, these are the finance for clean energy and the fossil fuel, the ratio. The target was basically rather earlier in 2015, the Paris Agreement, the fossil fuel reached 2 times more finance than clean energy, for example, renewables. So the target, now we can see there's improvement. So presently, we have more finance, 1.1 time, 10% higher finance for the last 2 years, 2024 and 2025, for the clean energy, compare it fossil. It's a good improvements. So we are spending more financing for renewables, but still it's not adequate to reach the 2030 target. There's another one, EV sales. Again, there's a significant increase in EV sales, up to 22%. Now, last year, 22% of the new vehicles sales are electric. So that's a very good thing. But earlier, the rate was very high, but now there's a slowdown. So therefore, a few years back, that indicator was, say, on track, green. But this year, 2025, estimates, September, it went to off track now. So therefore, even the electric vehicle, it's not moving very fast. There are some other areas which are very much lagging behind. I have shown 2. One thing is the share of coal in electricity generation. The target was to have this 4 in 2030. That's a blue 4. Presently, it's 34% percentage. And we are going along this dash line. And we need 10 times more aggressive, cut down. So therefore, it's a very difficult task. So therefore, we are not going along this line. Even other one, rate of deforestation. So that need to be improved up to 1.9 million hectares per year by 2030, according to the Paris Agreement. Their targets, but we are now having 8.1 million hectares and moving along that line. So therefore, it needs 9 times more aggressive, action to halt deforestation. So that's also we are not going to reach. Likewise, there are many other areas which are not happening. In particular, we are talking about the shift in demand from towards cleaner sources like reduce coal, air travel, improve energy efficient building, reduce food production losses in agriculture, increase public travel use, reduce meat consumption, which are high energy intensive and water intensive foods, towards vegetarian. It's not happening, especially not for us, but for countries having very high meat consumption. Then cut food waste and so on. These are kind of demand side interventions which are not happening, and such changes yet to be take off. So therefore, there are several areas of importance which are mandatory for our climate reduction. Is not happening. Likewise, there are many such areas which need further attention. For example, green hydrogen, CO2 removal, electric trucks, and so on. There are some discussion and actions, but are not yet there to mainstream those breakthroughs. So, promising solutions are emerging in agriculture, but again, these are not scale up to the required level. Steel, cement production, we need further reduction. It's not happening the way we need. Data limitations there in throughout, and some of the sectors you can't quantify without the data. That's also an issue. Public finance, that's also become very important in where the public finance for fossil fuel is still climbing, though it is expected to reduce those. So therefore, there are certain areas which will make NDCs are basically not adequate. So This is the last slide. Sorry, I have taken some time. So key takeaways, what you have to understand is though the modality of climate action is founded on Paris Agreement, the related commitments of member countries, including us, and their progress are falling short. So we are not going to achieve our climate action target, the Paris Agreement, the temperature goal, or the global goal on adaptation by 2030. And also remember that this is going to have much impact on the SDGs, and therefore we are not going to achieve SDGs by 2030. That's very clear. The presently most main focus of our government and also in the region is more towards urgent and short-term needs. Presently we have a forex issue, no dollars, we have those economic impacts. So therefore the emphasis on those, so that's okay basically, because that's what the government wants to, solve. But at the same time, we have to also look into the long-lasting strategies. No, it's not happening in that way. So therefore, the SDGs or climate actions, there's no emphasis or priority for that type of studies or solution. Only the paperwork, we have plans, but not in implementation level. Because the government, I think the agencies and fail to understand the opportunities provided by these global frameworks, SDGs and NDCs for local development. We don't see those opportunities to solve our local problems, to get international support for local development. Then the most important element is basically now we have come up with this NDCs, which is now already complicated next 10 years. So we have actions. Then we have SDGs also there. We have linked those. If you can link those together and develop our development plan, our socio-economic development plan by the government for the next 5 years or 10 years, that's what we call long-term, low-emission development strategy. As I said, this development strategy mean SDGs, low emission mean NDCs, long term is 2050, that type of thing. If you can come up with that type of long lasting solution and strategies while addressing the financial, technology, and capacity gaps, which can be supported by global, the supports provided, then we can reach our aspirations and development goals. That's what we need. No? So therefore, the government and also the other stakeholders should look into the NDCs and SDGs as the strategic base to develop our future, basically, our development action plan. So that's the kind of a last kind of a message I want to give. Unfortunately, this has not been perceived by the government or the relevant stakeholders. They don't see this is possible. So there are reasons for that also, but we don't have any other way to address our issues, especially to access finance. So this will become kind of a mandatory thing for accessing global finance. Unless we can survive with our own finance, no issue. But that we need global support. So unless we are aligned with these, for our own benefit, of course, we will not be able to realize the development part. So that's the important element. So therefore, we have to see how the NDC implementation plan and SDGs also can be revisited and develop our sectoral plans. And then we will be able to get international support more and more, dollars, for example, and then develop our actions or development. So therefore, NDC 3 points will become very important element in linking with others, other convention, SDGs, and so on. We can, develop our strategy for development. So that's basically my message. So I have taken more than 1 hour, so I can open for discussion. I see. So there are two.
Thank you, Dr.
So,
Sugathapala, for the very informative presentation. We were a little bit saddened by the lack of achievement in the globally, not the country per se. But looks like we are heading for a very depressing period ahead. But that
Yeah.
being said, I would like to open the floor for questions. And firstly, do you want to have any other remarks before we start the Q&A sessions?
No, I think we can discuss. There are two questions posted. I can address these two first and then open
Yes,
for
please.
other. No? Yeah, the first one says we submitted the first NDC in 2016. I vividly remember the batch we had with Dr. Vadagoda. He's still there, yes, yeah. So that's NDC 1.0.
Yeah.
But remember that NDC 1.0 covered 2020 to 20 the 10-year period. So then NDC 2.0 is the same period. So therefore we revive it. What you call updated NDCs. So it's the same period, but it's a two submission. So therefore this one we call is NDC 3.0. Yeah. So that's first one.
Yeah.
You can send in. This is a question from you to the others. Yeah.
Yes.
So any follow-up
Yes, in the
question,
Q&A
Harsha, on
box,
that?
there are questions from, firstly from Namis Musafa. To which
Yeah.
degree does NDC 3 by 2030 agree with the SDG 7 and all SDGs in general and long-term generation expansion plan? He's asking whether the
Yeah,
NDC 3 is in line.
yes. One of the base I have shown that in the methodology, we have referred all the sectoral plan and get the consent from the sector people to put the NDC. So therefore, all are aligned with our development plan. For the energy sector, in fact, it's almost sector is almost 100% equivalent to the long-term generation expansion plan of CB. So we align to that one most of the time. So therefore, the actions are aligned with the sectoral plans because otherwise you can't implement. No? So that's the issue. So therefore, all these actions are agreed and by the sector people. All these NDCs were in fact submitted to the corresponding secretary of the ministry. So therefore, if they have issue, then they look into that one and there are some revision. So this time, of course, it's aligned with the national development plans and the action plans. Yeah. So therefore, it's aligned. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Then there's one of the attendees who would like to know the corporate companies tree planting consider for 32% forest cover growth. If so,
yes, yeah.
What are the factors which corporate companies need to focus on?
So now we had an issue. There's a lot of discussion with earlier the government sometime back declared this 32% target. Forest sector target that is basically forestry cover. Then when we look into the actual land available and also the land use changes, the forest department and other also said that 32% reach will not be possible through the declared forest cover. So therefore, because of, we have limited, it's a percentage, we have limited land. So therefore, subsequently, they also look into this tree outside the forest because some of the forest areas, in fact, is not really, we are not very clear which are, whether it's a forest or maybe degraded in area type of thing because some of the forest land are converted into agriculture and so on. So therefore, we don't have very detailed mapping on land use, planning or land use. So land use change matrix also Sri Lanka we don't have. So therefore, there's a lack of data. But typically, the message came from the sector people is that the forest department, including them, the amount of land available are not sufficient to reach 32%. So therefore, from the last maybe several years back, they look into, we had this tree outside the forest as a part of the element. Now this 32%, they say that can be achieved by improving those tree outside the forest also, like catchment areas, then the urban forestry and so on. So there's a kind of an equation where we can convert number of trees to hectares by looking at their productivity and so on, and then it converted to a number of hectares tree outside the forest also to take into account to have this target because our key indicator KPI is the 32% forestry. So that forestry include the outside the forest. So therefore now we want to implement that. the tree outside the forest, number of trees, it's very clear that the government alone, like, cities, others cannot do that. When you look at even, for example, water board, they have some target, they had some target, then Mahaveli authority having lot of land, they had some targets and so on. But when you look at all those targets which are lagging behind, so therefore the private sector will have a major role to play, cooperates. So therefore, this national target, the government should look into get the input from the contribution from private sector. One of the most promising area is the plantation sector. How should you aware that? No, in the tea and rubber plantation, they have excess lands which they don't declare as unutilized land because the ownership issue. Like if they declare, then the government will take no. So therefore, they have lands. So one way to address this issue is to have tree plantation with some control over sustainability issue, because we can't, go for forest plantation. There should be tree plantation, contribute to carbon capture, but then we have to regrow. No? So therefore, like a food plantation, sustainable plantation, and so on has to be promoted. It's now happening now. There are some projects. So therefore, the corporate can have a major role, like even mangroves. The same thing applies for mangroves. Even today, the mangrove restoration, corporates are contributing. No? So therefore, the corporates will have a major role. But one of the issue there, Harsha, that this carbon, the market, because they come up with a requirement to have carbon neutrality and so on. So then there's a kind of a, the ambiguity or less clarity area who should own the carbon. So this amount, sequestration. Presently, we don't have a country standing over that, so therefore we have a barrier for the private sector, the corporates to come in unless they do it as a CSR project where they are not looking at as carbon, owning the carbon, but some of these are like, mother companies, the parent companies, they want to have carbon for their own declaration. But meanwhile, we have also declared in our NDCs, we are going to sequestrate that in. So therefore, there's an issue. If we sell the carbon, then we can't declare as our NDC. So there's an issue. So that issue is there, but definitely corporates will have a major role to play in this transition. The government can't do that. So NDCs, especially for plantation, these areas, in even other areas, even the renewable energy development, that's the case. So therefore, the private sector engagement is very, very important, which is not there yet fully in Sri Lanka. Thank you.
Actually, sir, we have decided to let 25% up to 25% of the carbon to be kept sold or whatever by the developers, and the remaining will have to be taken into account in the NDCs, National Carbon Bank. So, being said, there is another question. Thank you for the clarification, by the way. Will there be a change for green taxonomy to align with NDC 3?
Yeah, so green taxonomy is being revised now to convert into sustainable taxonomy, because this is came up under what we call sustainable finance roadmap. Now we had a first roadmap was revised. Now we have published CBSA, the second roadmap, 2.0. In 2.0, it talks now more on sustainability, social element. For example, it clearly highlights the social element as well as micro industry. MSMEs are now prioritized. It's an important thing, the social aspect. So social inclusion is there. So therefore, the green finance taxonomy being now revised to convert into sustainable finance taxonomy. Whatever the case, green finance taxonomy, the way though these are developed is kind of a two different frameworks. The sector classification in this sustainable finance taxonomy is come up with the industrial classification. It's a complete different framework. So therefore, when you put it together, you can see there are mismatch. For example, some of the sectors, which are not classified under the category of NDCs. So therefore, there's a difficulty of aligning those. But then there are not, there's a priority for, the climate action within the green finance taxonomy. But when you go for certain actions, we'll find that the taxonomy presently does not cover that because of the industrial classification. So it's a very comprehensive classification we have by looking at the, not by the environment or sustainability aspect. It's basically by looking at the economic, the market, element, the industry aspect. So therefore, they are following that framework globally, not in Sri Lanka too. So therefore, there's a mismatch. So therefore, it's very, presently it's difficult to fully align, but usually the key areas like energy efficiency or the renewables, those are captured in green finance taxonomy, but not fully aligned. So therefore, we will have a difficulty. One of the key challenge can come in adaptation sectors. The taxonomies are inherently demand for more sound methodologies, indicators, measurable indicators. Those are available in general for mitigation sectors. Like we can measure carbon reduction, but adaptations are more qualitative. And being more qualitative thing, you don't have a sound frameworks, the what you call the matrices, tools to quantify. So therefore, in taxonomy, some Sri Lanka, of course, we have adaptation area, but when the banks wants to divert their funding for adaptation area, they are reluctant because they don't have indicators to capture the progress. It's a very, globally we have that issue that most of the climate financing, even present, are going for mitigation. Though the adaptation is important, because the adaptation, I said that now we have a set of indicators globally, these 100 indicators, but even these indicators, how to measure at the local level is it's a data gap, so therefore we have an issue of aligning NDCs with or the other way also green finance taxonomy. So there's an issue there. Thank you.
Now there is a question from our president, Dr. Amila Wickramasinghe.
Yeah.
Even after 10 years, why isn't the NDC process coming up with adequate data recording, collection, monitoring systems, especially for sectors other than power, making monitor and progress reporting very difficult and uncertain?
Yeah. So that's one of the major gap we have now. It's a mandatory that in this negotiation, what happened there is the developed countries, they agreed to provide finance funds for climate. Let's say like Green Climate Fund. Now this time last November, they have increased from 100 billion US dollar to 300 billion US dollar, their commitment. So it's not sufficient, but at least we have 300 billion. When they do that, they also come up with certain, hurdles for us to, abide by, because they want to sure that we are using those funding to a appropriate, application without having, for example, corruption. So they don't want to give free money if they know that we don't have transparency, accountability, and so on. So therefore, they have rights to indicate those. So therefore, when we have expansion of climate fund, there'll be more and more indicators, criteria coming for us to have this transparency, accountability, and so on. So that's the key difference we had in this NDC also. So therefore, it's become more and more difficult for us to do certain things. So therefore, it's mandatory that we have to have a proper monitoring, reporting, and verification system, as well as monitoring and evaluation, M&E and MRV, both are important, in place to qualify for climate finance. Or even sustainable finance. And probably you are aware that now our banks, the top 100 banks, are subjected to a severe scrutiny that they are now mandated to provide a proof of how much finance in their disbursement allocated or disseminated for sustainable development. They have to measure and show that. So it's a requirement. It's a legal, especially so globally it's coming up. So therefore, those banks now struggling very much because it's not them they are collecting data. They have to collect the data from the consumer, the user. Now. So, for example, maybe even when they give a loan, say 100,000 loan, they have to show that out of that loan, what the contribution given used for sustainable development goals. So they have to measure and show that. It's become a regulation now. So they are struggling very much these days to come up with this the framework. So therefore, this data is an issue because it's a right for them to ask for the clarity. You can't say we don't have a data management system. Why not? No. So sometime back we had a better data management system. For example, I can remember, maybe 10 or 20 years back, our Department of Statistics and Statistics, the officers are housed in some of the key agencies like Department of Traffic. There's an officer paid by the Department of Census and Statistics, but collecting the vehicle data by being in the DMT, physical. Now he's not there. Likewise, so therefore we have a real issue on data. So data collection and so on. So while we are having a good system in electricity sector, even the energy, even the other energy sectors like thermal energy, we don't have that checklist. So therefore, this is becoming a very, difficult, rather challenge. But then now the ministry and also the development partners are coming up with certain databases to do that. Although those databases can be there, but we don't have a operational mechanism to collect and store and analyze the data. So therefore, it's a very very severe challenge we are having to align with to access even global finance. So, but this become mandatory now, especially in the finance sector. Banks, they are now bound to do that, not only CBSL but globally. So the global funding are diverted. Harsha, you are aware that DFCC, they got accreditation for this DCF funding for so many years.
Yes.
And there are a few others are coming. Very tough. No, this is not to get the money, but to have a system in place to get the money. So then once they get the money, then they have to have the system to monitor it. So therefore, without having that one in the next level, in the ministries or private sector agencies who are going to use the money, they are not going to get the money. They are not willing to get the money because they are in trouble. They have to show that the progress. So those now the banks are now working on this, struggling very much to have that data management system in place to get the data. So it's a real challenge. Unless we go for that, we had to, I think we had a better system years back. Now it's coming down. So we should have the other way, but we are now regression in that direction. Therefore, it's a very, very important area to immediately attend. So otherwise, we are in trouble. Thank you.
Actually, I must contribute here. Our country, none of the players, including the private sector, they take data very seriously and they don't invest in these systems. They don't hire people, they don't pay them well, and they don't plan to have any expenditure on this data aspect. So we are destined to doom in this sector. Unfortunately, nobody's really bothered or interested. But when they want to raise finances, they come rushing to our organization looking for data. But no one is serious about this. I'm very
it's a serious
deeply
issue.
concerned about this. So that's
a
a
serious
quite
issue.
lengthy question from Mr. Dilip Varnasinghe. We have overstayed here half an hour, but let me try to quickly attend to these final couple of questions. NDC mentioned it is expected that an additional capacity of 5,231 megawatt will be generated from clean sources over the period from 2026 to 2035, out of which 1,247 megawatt is unconditional. Is this from energy policy? He's asking. And the second part, also, what are the technologies coming under 3,984 megawatt conditional category? Can those technologies obtain foreign financial support, are there any limitation to declare the carbon emission? Two questions.
Yeah, so now when you look at the policy, it's a guideline, no? So we don't have kind of a targets in the policy, no? So the policy is a guideline where national policy promote renewables and clean energy and all the energy conservation. So therefore, the targets are revised targets. Usually these are derived from for the electric sector, which are aligned with the most recent long-term generation expansion plan of CG. So therefore it's sometimes policy is maybe now outdated. Now this has to be updated. So it's not just 100% from the policy, but the policy is a direction. So it's aligned with the policy. It does not contradict, but it's more aligned with the action plan. That the long-term generation expansion plan. All the numbers are basically even revised with the new plan. So it's aligned with the national or the sectoral plan. So, the more details are there in the report in terms of numbers, which will come into more detail when we develop the implementation plan. We can revisit also the implementation plan in our NDC, the table. There's a question. It's asked whether when we are going to revise these targets. We said that in the report. When you are developing NDC implementation plan, we are going to have more detailed assessment. Thereby, some of the targets may be revisited and revised. So therefore, some of these targets, if we feel that when you are developing the implementation plan, which is more comprehensive assessment in coming months, if we think that there is changes to be done, we have indicated in our submission that we are going to do it. It can be a positive increment or negative, whatever, to reflect the national circumstances and priorities and the situation now. So therefore, these numbers can change, but with a reason. Then now we have to remember this target, the conditional and unconditional thing. So finally, in the climate modeling, to see what the temperature rise we are going to have, they consider both together and also separately the unconditional thing. Because if we fail to read the conditional target, having lack of finance or whatever, we have to have the unconditional thing. So therefore, unconditional target are collectively modeled as one scenario in the global frameworks, and they consider the total one as the actual, the target by assuming that the developed countries will provide support for the developing countries to operationalize all the NDCs, including the conditional target. By assuming that they also model the carbon emission scenario. So that's why in my diagram earlier, you see an area rather than a single line in NDCs. One of the upper limit basically come up with the unconditional target, the lower, the more aggressive one, the conditional target. It's an area. So those data is available for example, one of the agents who doing this analysis is World Resource Institute. So I have given that connect number. If you go there, they have information regarding that, and there are other agents, even University, they do that. So therefore, this conditional thing is, we will not get just money unless we have show our readiness to manage. That means we have to submit proposal according to their guideline and get the money. So they don't give money, we have to get the money. So they have a right in the report for development proposal is our baby, our action. That will not come easily. So therefore, it's up to us to work hard and get access to finance for this conditional target. Being conditional, they are not going to open money for us unless we show our plan and program according to the required criteria, indicators, frameworks, and so on. It's very, very difficult. So far, when you look at the progress so far in NDC 2.0 up to even 2024, you will see that we have achieved mainly through unconditional target. Nothing has mainly, like even some of the main sectors, we were not able to access or implement the conditional target. So we are going to have a serious issue in that because they are not going to give free money. Yeah? So therefore, even the getting finance for this one, we have to show, we have to write report. Only thing is when we write that conditional action in our NDC, it is the qualifying criteria for apply for funding. For example, if you want to submit a financial proposal to Green Climate Fund, first thing they are look at is whether that project comes under NDC. It's a qualifying criteria. For example, energy sector, now we are talking about pump hydro, we are talking about large scale battery in our NDCs. Those projects, in a large projects, we should be able to develop project proposals, submit for different financing agencies to access finance. If it is not listed there, then it will not qualify. For example, if we consider, let's say, offshore wind, which is not identified within our NDC, will not qualify for Green Climate Fund, but that will qualify for carbon trading. Now, remember that Green Climate Fund are the funds which are not part of the carbon trading. Carbon trading is basically a market mechanism. Green Climate Fund are funds allocated by developed countries for developing countries like us to implement NDCs. So therefore, carbon market is a different thing. So if we have some projects which are not in NDCs, these projects can be, given or rather we can consider for carbon financing. So that is two different things. Both are climate financing, but Green Climate Fund basically are for NDCs. So therefore, it's aligned with NDCs. But then we have to write the report. Now we have to write the funding proposals to get the funding. They will not come and give the money. So that's the challenge. So then there are a lot of underlining elements we need to satisfy. Even data monitoring system is part of that. We have to show that we have a proper monitoring system to show how much carbon we reduce. So likewise, so progress we have to monitor and so on. So there's a very conditional in that also. So therefore, getting this finance is not easy, but it qualifies being in a NDC. Thank you.
Sorry to keep you further here.
Sure. No, yeah.
This question, I think I should be able to answer. Can you explain the rooftop solar credit process of ACA? The answer is rooftop solar energy credits are not available for selling because it is already taken under the unconditional target area. So that carbon credits generated there goes to the country's unconditional contribution. So same with the other renewable energy projects which are on feed-in tariff scheme, because they are well compensated. There is no need for additional financing for carbon credits money for these projects to go ahead.
That's
so
correct. Yeah. We have our own commitment, and remember, Harsha, it's not only NDCs; it's for even carbon neutral target.
Yes,
we have to keep our carbon to reach that. If we sell that carbon, then it is not accounted for our carbon neutral target. So it will be account for other countries' target. So therefore, we have to be very careful, not only today but the future also, to keep enough carbon for our targets. Otherwise, we are in trouble. So therefore, that's the area where others should understand, private sector in particular, that we are not just hiding it. We are keeping for our requirements. So those are more important than making money out of that. So that's something we have to understand. So there's a commitment from the government side, which will more important for our development, because we are getting funding for NDCs. So therefore, we have to keep carbon for NDC. So that's the issue. So we can't sell. So that's something we have to look into. So if we sell the low-hanging fruits, then what we have is most difficult projects which we have to implement by own funding. So that is more, negative impact for our economy. So yeah, thank you.
Yes, similarly, whatever the cost reduction realized by attracting cheap carbon financing will have to be passed on to the customers by way of the reduced feed-in tariff. And we have indicated that to some of the developers who are present here. So I think they were not very happy with this decision, but we can't help it because it's a national benefit which will have to be shared with the people of this country. The developer alone is not. It is not possible to do that. So the final two questions, I won't take you any more of your time. What are the identified technologies from TNA done by so far? I think it's a difficult question to answer. It's a long list raised by our own Dilhani at the SCA.
It's there in the report. You can download. I think, you can get from Ministry of Environment. It's not published yet, but then you can get the list. Every sector, 16 sector, there is at least three technologies. So there's a lonely. We have 50 technologies in total.
Yes, the final question. I understand that NDC reporting is mandatory and the target achieving is voluntary. So what would happen if Sri Lanka would, unable to achieve its targets?
So we usually set our targets ourselves to nationally determined. Then it's up to us to report things we can do. But once we reported that, identify that and we report it to the global community, they use that data to model our temperature rise. So if we provide information where we are not going to achieve it, there's a crime, basically. So therefore, it will come back. They are not going to punish on that, but they will consider it as a failure in our commitment. That will be reflected in our global financial team. Like even, IMF, everyone now, IMF now looking at this. Can remember, like now, present they are looking at our NDCs and so on. So how far we have achieved it. Those are the points they consider to allocate money for us. If a country who commit and then get that target in place, they will get higher priority than us. So therefore, that we come as a implication our support or the economic support from other the development partners, even World Bank, and so on. So therefore, but one thing is we have to determine our thing. So if that's our thing, we can say it's not 10% but 5%, whatever we can determine. No? So that's a nationally determined thing. The mandatory thing is the reporting. When we report it, you can't say after 5 years we can say it, but then it's become negative that we committed, but then we have not achieved it. No? So the commitment from our side, like calculation from our side, so then we can't say now we can't achieve it because we said we can achieve, and then it's up to us to make all the necessary support to achieve that. So we have to work hard. So therefore it's not just declaration. We have to then have the implementation plan, monitor everything to achieve it. It's a target, no? Yeah. So that it will reflect in basically global financing, development financing for Sri Lanka. So that will be badly reflected if we don't do that. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you, sir. With that question, we can wind up the session. But before that, let me thank Dr. Thusitha Sugathapala for the very elaborate and very informative presentation. There are so many people who would have benefited from this presentation. So we have recorded this, and after some editing, we will be posting it in our website, SLEMA website. And I take this opportunity to thank the President, Dr. Amila Wickremesinghe, for organizing this Energy Management Forum with a renewed vigor, and also the Seminar Secretary, Nimashi, and the team at SLEMA for making this happen. And most importantly, the presenter, Dr. Thusitha Sugathapala, no stranger to the climate matters. So he's very eloquent and very informative dialogue we had today, and you can refer to this presentation whenever you have any doubt. And also I take this opportunity to thank every one of you who came and interacted actively, posing questions and asking that very difficult questions actually. enlightening every one of us. So we look forward to another similar energy management forum next month. And thank you, Dr. Sugathapala, and the rest of you, and have a pleasant evening. Thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you, Harsha. Yeah, thank you all. Goodbye.